Hi there, Agile friends. Get ready for the World Tour of Agile at the Agile Online Summit 2023. You can join us from October 24th to 26th for a global showcase of cutting-edge Agile practices and insights. Join us at agileonlinesummit.com. This year, we will be featuring some of the best work done around the world and world-class keynotes. You can check all of that at agileonlinesummit.com. But the best part is that your ticket is on us. That's right, it's free to attend and immerse yourself in the world of Agile excellence. Don't miss out on this opportunity to level up your skills and network with peers and industry experts. Mark your calendars and secure your spot at AOS 23 today by visiting agileonlinesummit.com. So get your free ticket or opt for the full digital pass that lets you keep all the conference videos forever and organize, why not, Agile learning sessions at work. You can get the full digital access at agileonlinesummit.com. I'll see you in the conference floor. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Team Tuesday. This week we have with us Seye Kuyinu. Seye Kuyinu.
Yes.
Yes, man. I'm so sorry. I murdered your name there.
No offense taken.
That's good. That's a smart perspective. I like that. Also because it's so easy for me to murder people's names.
Yeah.
So, Seye, share with us, we'll talk about teams in a minute, but share with us, what's the book that most influenced you in your career as a Scrum Master?
I have two books actually. One of them, which I'll probably talk about list, is The Three Marriages. It's by David Whyte. It's I think the subtitle is Reimagining Work, Self and Relationships. For me, it puts a lot of what I think I talked about this in the last episode about how, work there's nothing really called work-life balance. It's an illusion. There's just life, and then we have to be able to find ways to balance our input and our output. Well, that's by the side. One really great book that has helped me in my career is Badass Agile Coaching. And that's in fact that's one book that I think everybody should read if you're an agilist. It's changed my relationship to coaching. I feel like as a Scrum Master, I jumped into this field thinking too much about actually the process of Scrum Mastery as opposed to the heart of the Agile Manifesto. And that's something that I talk about a lot. The Badass Agile Coaching book puts into perspective what it really is to be a coach. And I started finding out that, outside of our experience as, whether agile coaches in an organization, it's the same thing that you can bring to bear in other relationships, other settings. But one great lesson that I took from the book is how it talks about changing your language. It feels like, to explain that in better detail, it feels like a lot of times you see Scrum Masters or Agilists coming into organizations talking about things like velocity, let's increase our velocity. And then if you're talking to people in more leadership spaces, especially if you're talking up to or trying to coach up, language like that could actually get you in trouble. And when I say that, I mean people don't really care about velocity. They care about predictability. Being able to change language from what we're used to within the agile context to business speak is really important for rapport. Being able to change language from talking about agile to talking about things, instead of using the word agile, maybe we want to, depending on the context, obviously we want to talk about things like transparency. That's something that organizations want to see. Instead of talking about things like agility or business agility, maybe we should talk about things like organizational leadership alignment. So a lot of what this book really, well, at least one of the bigger things that I took away from the book was our ability to talk more in the language of those who we serve, as opposed to using, should I say, agile speak. Then obviously there's another.
I think that's so important. I want to highlight it. Let's speak the language of those whom we serve. I think that's very powerful.
Yes. The other thing, I love the author of the book. I can't remember the name
Bob Galen. Yeah, he's been Bob on the Galen. Podcast before. Yeah.
I missed that. I missed that episode. One of the things he talked about is situational awareness. Sometimes we forget that we work with people. And I think this is one of the reasons why I always highlight the first agile manifesto principle, individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Sometimes we forget people. We forget that we work with people who may be cross-cultural, people who are in a different generation, people who maybe have a disability. Our ability to be self-aware, it feels like the very first starting point. I live in the US and I work in the US. I have a different cultural experience, but can I be well aware of my own cultural experiences and then see how people are shaped by their own cultural experiences? Those things are they feel very, very minute. They feel like they are meaningless.
Maybe they feel fuzzy, not necessarily meaningless, but like fuzzy. It's like, I can't put my finger on it.
Yes, exactly. And they flavor the whole pot.
That's a great way to put it. They flavor the whole pot. Definitely. Yeah. Language is one of those things, by the way. It will flavor the whole pot for sure.
Yeah.
Seye, that's a great recommendation. Definitely check it out. Badass Agile Coaching and the 3 Marriages by David Whyte. We'll put the link in the show notes, of course, for you guys to find it easily. But Seye, now we turn our attention to the teams and how sometimes they become their own worst enemies. So share with us a story of a team. Walk us through the context so that we understand how many people, what kind of project, those things. And then walk us through the story, like how those small things started to accumulate, the small behaviors that grew and grew and grew. And as you just said a minute ago, ended up flavoring the whole pot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one that easily or readily jumps to mind is there was one of the gigs that I was working at. I just started with the organization, and I found out that they had created a new value stream. And started aligning people to that value stream. They set up teams that were aligning to this value stream, and somehow, in just having conversations with this team, I found out that what they would do is they would take the teams to the work rather than the work to the team. So sometimes you have situations where we're going to work on this new feature. So let's set up a new team, and then they bring two members or 2 people from one different team. In this particular situation, they brought about 3 team members from a different team because they had some level of experience, and then put them in this other team because they had a product owner who was more, who was more vocal. And then they brought 2 other people who were new team members into this team. And then within a short period of time, within another like 3 months, they realized, we actually need to deliver this other new feature. So let's remove these 4 team members and put them in this other team. And what was happening here was, obviously the team hadn't, and this was a challenge within this organization. It felt like, for the most part, the leadership or the managers hadn't understood the fact that if you're removing team members and throwing them into another team, they have to start all over again in the Tuckman's cycle. Now they have to form again. They have to storm. They have to norm. And then while they are still in that process, you pick them up and then throw them again into another team. So in more ways than not, in this particular situation, I found out that the destruction wasn't the making of the individual teams, but it was the organization itself that was creating the dysfunction and creating high expectations of the team to deliver when they've not even sat long enough to be able to even understand themselves as a collective force.
Absolutely. And that's actually something that we need to, as of course, coaches for these teams, we need to be intimately aware, like what is the life cycle stage this team is in. And when you suddenly parachute 4 team members in that are there for a relatively short period of time, like 4 months or 3 months, whatever that was, and then they move on. Like we need to be ready for that. Like, for example, we need to have a huge toolbox of team building activities, because if they are going to stay for only 3 months, you need to completely change how the team works within the first week. Like you can't even wait for a couple of weeks before that happens. It's really a high pressure environment. Now, let's be clear. There are teams where this is possible. Like as an example, the crew in an airline will be able to form for every day or flight, depending on how long the flight is. So they form and then they separate, and then they form and then they separate. But they have a lot of structures around them that help them form and, go through the stages of the Tuckman's life cycle very quickly, right? At least the initial stages where they are at least norming, right? Like they understand each other and they understand what's expected of each other. And one way to do it is to create hierarchies, right? Like in an airliner, the captain is the captain, right? Like the captain decides ultimately, as an example. And there's the I don't know what the English term is, but the first officer in the cabin, right? Like of the people that are caring for our safety in the back. So like, and when we do these team changes without those infrastructure around, we're actually just asking for trouble, right?
Yes, but I think this leads to one of the challenges that I've seen happen in being able to identify this as an issue is sometimes these changes within these organizational structures are made by people who don't understand the psychology of team or the dynamics of teams, and you have to battle between the organization's priority, organizational shifts, and we as coaches being able to say, this it looks like a really good decision right now, but we have to make sure that we are considering all these other psychological factors, But that obviously this requires being able to coach upwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, coaching upwards means coaching people that are in the hierarchy above where we are, right?
Exactly.
And of course, that requires a lot of patience and of course, tact, right? Like knowing how to talk, to being able to influence people in a way that doesn't come across as patronizing, for example, telling others what to do, as an example. And that's a great challenge for anyone, right? Absolutely. That was a great story. Thank you for sharing that, Seye.
You're welcome.
Tuesday is Team Day here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. But tomorrow we talk about something that goes beyond the work we do with the teams. We will talk about how to lead change and what our guests have learned from leading and participating in change programs during their career. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.